Oppenheimer reunion in A Quiet Place 3 if Emily Blunt has her way. An encouraging update on the development of a potential third entry in the A Quiet Place franchise was provided by Emily Blunt. After A Quiet Place Part 2's successful release in February 2022, Paramount declared that a third installment had been approved with a 2025 release date. Now that Blunt has acknowledged that negotiations regarding the plot are still going on, she has one restriction before the world can be returned to. Prior to the strike, Blunt disclosed that she and her husband, director of A Quiet Place, John Krasinski, had been discussing ways to bring the band back together for the third installment. Given that they collaborated on both Oppenheimer and A Quiet Place, it goes without saying that Cillian Murphy is aware of some of these conversations. Blunt said to Josh Horowitz on his Happy Sad Confused podcast that it appears that Blunt is having none of that. Krasinski had previously stated that he was through directing for the franchise after A Quiet Place 2, hoping that someone else would take up that duty while he concentrated on the story. Blunt doesn't appear eager to allow anyone in. Both Krasinski and Blunt expressed their intention to continue the story in interviews with Collider over the last few years, which will support this upbeat update. Just before the pandemic began in 2020, Krasinski told Collider he had been generating ideas for a third installment, suggesting he already had a direction in mind for the film. Krasinski remarked, "This time, I think when my brain started wondering questions like, what would this mean later on? At the time, in case I could get ready for a third one, I started taking notes." In a different interview with Collider in May 2021, Blunt elaborated on this, hinting that Krasinski had a whole arc of ideas for a potential Part 3. She said, "He has a complete arc of ideas that could work." Before completely focusing on the third one, I believe he merely wanted to see how people responded to this one. However, he has a few brilliant ideas. She went on to say that they had never seen this as a conclusion for them, but rather a second chapter, and that there would be room for further chapters in their story. As she put it, based on the first day of the invasion, filming has already started. However, because of the ongoing strikes, production is now on hold. The film, which also stars Joseph Quinn, Alex Wolff, and Lupita Nyong'o, is presently scheduled for release on March 8, 2024. Oppenheimer, which is presently showing in theaters, stars Blunt and Murphy. Below, you can see her entire interview with Josh Horowitz.